Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex.
Namaste, this is Dheeraj More coming to you live on the Hex Guild channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is gr- our group, the Hex Guild, is a small group of individuals who were united by a cryptocurrency called Hex. And this channel is dedicating it to talking about the how to fix the world and sharing our expertise amongst ourselves. And if you are new, you can join us in our Telegram group. It's free. And yeah, so one thing we do here is highlight the members of the community and the work that they do. And today we have a very special guest. If I know a lot of listeners have come in because he mentioned our group or this live stream on his live stream. Uh, we already have seen him teaching or schooling the crypto degens about how things are in the real world. And he has been working uh, in his field for around 11 years with great expertise. I will I will shut up for a moment and I will introduce none other than Crypto Wonder. Oh, I hope you like that short intro
Yeah,
and how's your- yes.
for sure. I'm
So
good. Glad to be here. Glad for you having me, Doc. I respect the contributions you've made uh, throughout this whole time with um with Hex and everything, and I enjoy your perspectives on key issues, and even your creativity. Like the intro to this show, I was laughing in the background. I was laughing at the chicken, not at what you were saying about the program, but the chicken that were running around that had me crying. Appreciate you,
yeah,
Doc. Appreciate you.
that intro was made by our very own Hex Futures. So all props
Okay.
to him. This is officially his channel. I just abuse my admin rights here sometimes.
Shout out to Hex
Uh,
Futures. Yeah.
a brief intro regarding the topic we were going to discuss, and the title of the stream is "No Child Left Behind." I even though it is not directly related to what we are going to speak about, but we had to find we have to find a good title. And I was watching this George Carlin skit just a few days ago. Like, I'm a great fan, and where he was talking about, you know till a few years ago, it was every child gets a head start, and now it is no child left behind, head
Right.
start, left behind. Somebody is
Right.
losing ground, man. Like, so what exactly is happening? Like, and yeah, look, I already did a live stream on this channel regarding the problems with the educational system,
Right.
but there are this that is regarding the normal run of the mill people, like and there are, of course, now there is a kind of a rise of people with uh, it's no longer even supposed to be considered a disorder. It's just neurodivergence.
Mm-hmm.
So the in, so these people need special attention and special care. But that is not we are going to what we speak about. I am going to speak about other you will be covering. But I wanted to point out there is a like amongst the majority, like there are always going to be a tiny niche that are left behind and
Right.
are uncared for, are even to like be hyperbolic, they are unwanted by society.
Right.
And I was not only in awe, but like I have great respect for you because you work with a certain group of individuals who are considered that way, uh, unwanted, unappreciated. So
Right.
I would like to hear like how like a brief intro of what you exactly do and like your like story of how you got or inspired into doing that. Okay, I will shut up for now.
Sure. 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 Can you hear me clearly? Because I know.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
your audio is okay. Yeah, the noise cancellation does a lot of wonders. So yeah, just
Okay.
speak.
No problem. So currently, what I do is I work with adults, mentally ill adults, in New York, and my in my capacity, my job is to make sure that they basically follow their treatment. In other words, everyone on in who we serve, and myself and my colleagues, everyone who we serve, they take medications, and when they don't take their medications, problems ensue. Right? They experience, a great deal of distress and crisis. So my job is to help them manage their lives by following their treatment plans, so that we can help them stay in the community instead of being housed in the institutions. That's not a perfect situation because oftentimes there's a high, almost like even in the jail systems, there's a high recidivism rate. They return back and forth at a high percentage. And so in some cases we have success stories, but in most cases, most of our population can't manage on their own, so they need support. And we're talking about the adult population. How I landed here was in 1993, when I first started working with children who were classified or identified as severely emotionally disturbed. Right? It was a setting where they were in a group home, and we're talking about kids ages 10 to 15, um, living in a group home, 8 boys, for example. And it was the same, sort of like the same model applied to adults, but mainly to children, but in a home like setting where their natural homes were unsafe. Their natural homes were creating situations to where it was causing a great deal of distress, a great deal of problems, and conflict, and it impacted the well-being of children. Where you have, for example, a 10-year-old child that's been through so much trauma that they've already lived the lives of an adult. And so from 93, I did that for about 10 years, and then I started to work in the child welfare system, to where I had to seek, um, investigate abuse, child abuse, and neglect. I did that for a couple years, and then another 2 years after that, 3 years after that, I worked for children, again, teenagers at this point that were housed, emotionally disturbed, same population, but they're older teenagers getting ready for college, but just right before they go to college, same services. And then from there, I did foster care for another couple years where, you know, children who were removed from homes who couldn't stay with their natural birth parents, were placed in, if they couldn't find any relatives to live with, they were placed in a stranger's home, for lack of a better word, and provide the same sort of like support and care. But a lot of those systems kind of failed the kids. It failed the kids' education system would be subpar because if the children had disruptive homes, they couldn't really focus in school. So it was a great deal of challenges, not only from a social aspect, but also from a medical slash emotional, psychological aspect, for the kids, and even conduct disorder where you have kids who misbehave, and they end up in the judicial systems, juvenile detention centers, things of that nature. And unfortunately, the population that I work with now, 30 years later, are the adults who many of them come from those beginnings, they come from the broken homes, they come from disruptive households, they come from, being abandoned, neglected, abused. And, this pretty much what motivates me to do this is because this is just something I've been doing for decades and it just feels like natural for me. But I do my best to at least touch the people in a way where if it's not through my work, it's through my words, or give them a word of encouragement, because I've come to learn from them that in their lives they've been disappointed, right? They've been neglected, they've been isolated, they've been made to feel inadequate and less than. So I keep in my head, like, if they never see me again, I would like to at least for my last contact with them to be something positive, or to leave them with something hopeful so that they can push forward in life and be productive or find some success. But it's a very, very difficult, it's not easy. It's not easy, you know. Um, and so what in terms of No Child Left Behind, right? As far as the subject that for this stream, and in this stream, I mean, it kind of touches me because that my first this field that I work in is called social services slash human services. So I started the field working with kids, you know, um, for been in the field for 30 years. Half of that time, it's been more than half has been working with kids. So it touches me a certain way because that's why even when I stream, I haven't more so mentioned this in my recent streams, but overall, I always try to appreciate the power of young people, the power of the youth, because they are representatives of the future, and how we support them, how we guide them, how we teach them, how we love them, how we protect them will will bring results in how everyone benefits tomorrow, right? And if we don't do those things, we feel the repercussions. We all do at some point. We feel the repercussions. When you don't take care of a plant, it grows and withers away. But when you do provide the support, the light, the water, the care, the nutrients, it'll thrive, right? So, you know, uh, I try to follow
I
what I do with what I talk about, but with what I do as best as I can. But I'm a work in progress, man. you know.
like was there any like specific incident in your life that prompted you to join the social services?
100%. 100%.
So
See, my
if you
parents,
can,
I'm sorry.
if sorry, I was just saying if you are comfortable sharing it with us, it's okay, or we can just I can
Oh,
blabber
yeah.
on further.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, for
Please go
sure.
ahead.
For sure. Growing up in New York, my parents are immigrants, from Haiti. And so I'm first generation, I guess, Haitian American or whatever you want to call it. And so growing up in the system here, I grew up in a household, nuclear family. It was hard, you know. We weren't rich. My parents weren't rich. We were rich in spirit, but monetarily impoverished, but we made do with what we had, right? And so living in those types of conditions, even though I had support from both parents as far as them being present, there were a lot of hurdles I had to overcome just as a child, going to school, meeting other kids who don't necessarily have my background and maybe do, but it was like a mixed environment, identifying, learning how to manage as a child, for example, dealing with, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s where in the environment I was living, it was high crime, right? And involving everything you could think of. And so in order for my parents to protect, it was always encouraged to go to school, but on your way to school, you have to navigate through all the pitfalls that are around you, all the traps, all the landmines, all the problems, all the undesirable, all the criminal activity. And so they say that you become a product of your environment, but how you behave is what is makes the difference to me. So in watching the hardship, you know, my father had to struggle to feed us. My mother had to struggle to take care of us. I didn't have the best clothes. I didn't have the best toys. My peers, some of them had more than others. And I'm watching things go along, and I didn't like that condition of living. I didn't like watching maybe a peer of mine. I see him one day, then he dropped out of school, and we're in the seventh grade. He drops out of school and decides to go to the streets and start selling narcotics. 6 months later, they find him in a closet somewhere because somebody killed him. Like things like that affected me, or even in where I grew up, you would walk even on the floor that we lived on, there was constant traffic. People knocking on our doors asking for if we had any work. And that was slang for any narcotics, any drugs. And so scary because and then you go outside and you see somebody laying down with their eyes rolled back in their head right next to the staircase with a belt tied around their arms. And we're witnessing this. We're 10, 11, 12 years old, and this was our reality. You go outside and you're watching people, and they look like they're gonna fall. They're standing, and we're saying people, like two, three people in front of a convenience store, what we call a bodega. One guy had his hair so long, he was a Rastafarian, and his dreads, he was leaning to where his dreads would touch the ground, but he would never fall. Why? Because he was high on dope, on heroin. This is our reality. You had people from Wall Street jump out of taxi cabs to then walk up to where we were and to buy narcotics, and then jump back in the car and go back down. And we're talking about people who had the finest attire, briefcase, all walks of life, stilettos, nice, men and women, it didn't matter. That was our reality. And then at the same time, you have to find a way to focus on going to school. I had people my age, in my age group, at the time, 7, 8 years old, who dropped out. 6 months later, you're looking at them, they're pregnant, or you're looking at them and they're in the streets, you know, and wondering what's going on. And so it's these things that motivate, among many other things, welfare system, social workers treating you like garbage. Meanwhile, they don't know how you're struggling. You go to a system to ask for help because you fell on hard times. You're not begging, but it make you feel like you are. It make you feel like you subservient. And you're talking about people who working, trying to work hard to uproot them, uproot themselves, but they want to diminish your value, you know, and that does something to your self-esteem. So, and then you're watching children who are driving expensive vehicles. They're living like adults because they decided they have had enough, and they're going to resort to surviving the best way they can by getting involved with criminal activity, you know, um, and wearing the finest clothes, they didn't care about the risk involved because their parents were strung out, or they didn't have any parents and they had to fend for themselves at 13, 14, 15 years old. you know there were an entire generation of people that were left behind in their early years before they even saw 18. Many of my friends didn't see 18. When I turned 21, I cried because I was like, wow, I made it. You know what I mean? Like it's those events, a series of events that pushed me into this field, you know, to give back, to help understand why we why are things are the way they are, the different class systems, the different socioeconomic systems and levels. How do you combat all of that? You know, and to show people that they could be successful, because many have been successful, but many haven't to this day. It's a battle, right? And it's an onward, and it's a struggle, but it's what they say, a beautiful struggle, but it's not easy, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I will give you a break for a little while. Look, uh, like I get goosebumps listening to it. I like, but you know, it's goosebumps are the wrong word. Shiver down my spine is would be more appropriate. But yeah, this is what it's about. Like, uh,
Yeah.
I like quoting internet aphorisms. So there is this thing like it's about how you react to your situations. Like
Yeah.
the difference between Superman and Lex Luthor is the
Right.
thing how they react to their situation. One guy says the world did this to me, so I will let the world suffer, and the other guy says because this happened to me, I will make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. So yeah, this is what kind of it is. And see, e- 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 look, I came from a humble background in Mumbai. We weren't like I would say like we were still you call what you call lower middle class, I would say. So
Mm-hmm.
we weren't very poor, but I would say hand to mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents did all they could to
Yeah.
protect me from deviating into other stuff. And uh, I would say, like, yeah,
Yeah.
and even I worked for in the like we have our internship program during our my medical school. I worked in the psychiatric and pediatric department for uh, two 2 months, 3 months, and
Okay.
Like, yeah, that trauma still haunts me some days, but
Wow.
like but this is not about me.
Right, right.
We were here. I'm here to highlight you, and yeah, this was just to take a break, and just I was just going to read through chat. Uh, Danny Amor says that that was some powerful words in the last stream. You are not wrong. It's right in front of us. Bit nobody cares.
Right.
Uh,
The daddy amor.
I'm going. I'm going to rewind a bit in a bit here in this stream. Thanks you guys for what you did. Difficult times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
much
nobody
appreciated.
cares. Like, see, the thing is, yes, we can say that, but deep down my heart, like, yeah, I do care, man. Like,
Exactly.
see,
Likewise.
again, like going back to like internet aphorisms, I still can't find that clip I wanted to share, but there is this interview with a archaeologist, an archaeologist, and they ask her, "What do you think was the beginning of civilization? What moment
Mhm.
would you consider in history as the beginning of civilization? Like, what would you think? Like, was it like the first cave arts, or the first tool, or the beginning of fire?" To which she
Mm.
replied, "You know what?
Mhm.
According to me, was we found a broken femur which was completely held in a cave. According to me, that is the beginning of civilization. Why? Because uh, if a person has their femur broken, they aren't able to move. The only way they could survive was if there were other people who could care for them.
Wow.
So that is what civilization is about. And if you want a civil society, yeah, it's good to say nobody cares, but we shouldn't like do like an eye for an eye. And
Right,
we
right,
have J Everything also joining us. So nice to see you here. Yeah, gratitude as well. So
right, right.
so the other thing I wanted to like ask about is, so yeah, like you said, you have been working for around 2 decades
Yeah.
in this field. So how have you seen any changes, positive or negative, that have occurred so far, and how they have affected you in your work? Yeah, like,
You know, that's an interesting question. I've definitely seen a lot of changes. The government here in my state wants to reduce certain systems. And what I mean by that, they want to change the system. They want to house less people who are struggling with mental illness and have them, get them out of the hospitals and institutions and open up those beds or close those beds and have them reintegrated into society. And in a sense, I can appreciate that. I see certain certain positive aspects of that because people have a right to live a decent, at least at minimum, in my opinion, a decent quality of life, and especially if you have certain support in place. But when the part about it that changes for me is when the support that's in place gets affected or gets cut, then it's almost like a catch 22 because it still lies on bureaucratic decision making. You want a population to not be institutionalized, and you have them live in the community, but they also need support. And when the support systems are affected or no longer present, then it's a recipe for disaster, right? You have now where I live, a bunch of people. The problem lies now where there's a bunch of people that are, for example, undiagnosed, and there's a great deal of crime taking place now. You have people that pushing people on the train tracks, people who, and it's irrespective of their nationality, ethnicity. Mental illness doesn't discriminate. Social problems and ills does not discriminate. So we have people committing all these heinous acts, and there's one thing to say, lock people up and do, but you're not really. It's hard because how do we address the issues that led to these people committing these situations? Um, there's some positive. There's been some positive, and as far as like even with some of the kids that I used to work with, I've seen they've become productive, right? They've matured into adulthood, uh, created families, acquired a skill set, where they could provide for themselves and their families. They got married, et cetera, et cetera. But in comparison to those who haven't, the ratio, when we want to talk about ratio, the ratio, they're still outnumbered. The positive is still outnumbered by those who are struggling and those who have either succumbed to the ills or, right, have literally given up. They rather live in jail than live in society. That's it's like, that's why I've learned, like, if you could reach one person, you can affect a person's life in a positive way, at least one, then that gives me some resolve. Like, you can, maybe that one person could do the same for someone else, and then it multiplies. So there are always some type of positive uh, effects, but the negative is present too, where we're seeing the evolution of things change too. Like, I used to work in the jails, and I learned a lot from the inmates, where a lot of them rather live there than live in society, right? They have free healthcare, free dental, food 3 times a day. They could work out, and they have housing. And they prefer to live in a cage, in a systemic cage, being told what to do, somewhere where they find secure, versus being homeless in the street, open in society, where we take a lot of things for granted in the free world. That intimidates them. They're not prepared for that. They rather live in the jails, where everything and anything bad can happen. And so, even working in the jails helped me appreciate everything that I have. Like, whatever I have is all I needed. Like, it's all I like. I have to be grateful and take inventory for all I have, because there's people in jail that don't have it, and they feel like if they were to switch positions with me, they would do it in a heartbeat. So what sometimes I have to look at myself and say, what am I complaining about? Like, what am I really complaining about? Where there are people who eat dirt, who eat mud every day, literally. They would trade positions at any point. And me, I'm crying because I can't get more money at my I mean, I get it too, like, there's certain things, like, the price of milk is too high, but at least I could afford to buy some milk. Some people got to steal. Some people got to go to jail to get it for free off our dime or our taxes, but they're getting it, like, you know, the changes
Yeah.
are, there are changes.
Sorry,
There's always changes. Yeah, for sure.
like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that is another, like, a different tangent. We could go on, like. forever the prison industrial complex. You know,
Yeah.
I think shared it on Twitter somewhere, or like there is a kind of a graph where if you see, since the launch of private prisons, the number
Mm-hmm.
of people that are being incarcerated is going up, and
Yeah.
on the other hand, the number of people that have been in mental institutions has been going down.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to figure out that yes, most of the people who are in prison shouldn't be there. They need uh,
Correct.
most of them are there for minor uh, issues like
Offenses. Yeah.
dealing yeah, minor offenses for dealing drugs, who need rehab, but that's how like industrial complex works. They need that slave labor, and these conditions are created to keep them enslaved. Like, but uh, I was also going to say like yeah, and you know, just being in prison itself puts like a big a mark on your face,
Mm-hmm.
as well as being diagnosed with a mental disease. People
Yes.
like getting a job afterwards is like almost impossible.
Yes.
So that's how things are messed up. But uh, hopefully we will see some like these things need correction, and that is why we kind of highlight this on YouTube, because you know I realized this like even though we are like a small channel, you think our words go unheard, but what happens is usually there are uh, AI
Mm-hmm.
agents, and this was even before ChatGPT and AI became popular. They
Mm-hmm.
search for which videos, like what is the audience retention rate, where what segments are most watched, and they build their content out of these things. So
Really.
they yeah, it need like it has to be done. Speaking on
Okay.
YouTube is a different thing. We need a hands on ground, and yeah, talking to your legislators is something you all need to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah. So overall, you would yeah, with like now I think there is a bit more general awareness regarding these issues, but I, I hope things are turning into the positive. Uh, so far from your experience, what do you think? What are the changes you would suggest? Any specific law you would, or regulation you would like taken away or added? What would you say about that?
You know, that's a great question. I've like when I used to work as a child protection specialist, that specifically investigating child abuse and neglect. Um, that actually caused me to think about many things, like what could be done to help reduce these situations that lead to children being traumatized, for example, that cause children to experience educational neglect, where they're missing schools, like 6 months, 7 months out of the year. You know, what are the issues going at home that could be that could be addressed? And Dr. Moore, let me tell you, like it went from like for me, it went from me thinking about how what's one problem that could be addressed in the home to what support that even the workers like myself at the time needed to help us remain well and deal with our trauma in helping these distressed families. And so I did a project at the time, basically a thesis for my degree regarding how to reduce burnout. You know, like how to reduce burnout for CPS workers, child protection specialists. I don't. And what I did was, what you know, at the time, this was like 25 years ago. So at the time, I was just thinking, what types of support systems do we need that we can create for ourselves? It was for me and my former colleagues and coworkers. What kind of support that we need that was absent in the bureaucracy, that was void and non-existent, that we needed as workers to help keep ourselves healthy so that we can meet those challenges. It had to switch. I couldn't think about the problems they were having at home anymore. I had to think about how those problems were affecting myself and my coworkers. And so I thought about creating a situation where we had like weekly, sort of like weekly groups. It didn't matter how small, but weekly groups solely for the staff members who did this type of work so that we can share sort of like a conference, but not to really share and bounce ideas and even vent and release and create a situation, a safe space that we can come up with solutions on how to deal with these taxing issues that we're dealing with, because many of us, it led to drug abuse. Many people got fired because they couldn't take the stress anymore. When you're watching the devastation that kids were undergo, kids, it's something that if you it would break your heart. It would just break you. And so, how do you heal yourself? Do you do you exercise? Do you you go to, I don't know, take how do you take care of yourself? And these are the things that were absent in the systems. So I talked about, creating wellness, a space for wellness where people can, do things that are healthy, that'll bring cheer and joy by talking, engaging in activities, playing music, exercising, meditating, stretching. This is before, wellness was a thing, but doing yoga, whatever it was, whatever, screaming, writing, yelling, playing sports, whatever, for like an hour a week, just to help give support. I know that's not really a direct answer to as far as laws to address some of these issues. It's at this point for me, I think, identify one area and then address it, like, you know education.
And
Education, I'm big on education. I don't know, because the problems are too huge. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend like I know. I don't even know how these things could be addressed to reduce the issues, because you got people, if you looking to go to school, you still have to eat. So how are you going to make money to feed your family? How are your kids going to eat? How are you going to be able to keep a home? So monetarily, what is it that people are doing to help secure stable income revenue streams, right? Whether you're working, whether you're starting a business, what's available to you that you can use today that's going to help you remain stable and not break down the fabric of your home, the fabric of you being a person, so that you can really be a productive member of society. It's just a lot. It's a lot because education, we could say education too, but there's certain things that are flawed with the education system, especially in America. They don't teach us what money is. They teach us how to work for the money. They teach us how to work to make other people rich. They don't teach us how to become enriched. They don't teach us what the purpose of what money is and how it works and how we can use this as a tool to work for us. Right? We're not encouraged and taught to be owners. Right? We're not encouraged to just take control. We're encouraged to be subservient with a bunch of information that they give us, basically program us with, and in many cases we don't use for the rest of our lives. We don't apply many of what we've been indoctrinated in the school system and apply during our adult years, you know? So there's certain things that are just missing. And I think, just to address your question, maybe attack the education system, attack and not attack, but address it and introduce a system that'll, within the education system and academic uh, industry, teach people what money is and why it even exists. What is inflation? What is the monetary policy? What is MM1, MM2? What are these things? What is that? What does that mean? Why are you why you know where what in other words, teach people, give people the basic skills, basic life skills that's not existent in school. That's not existent in the American education system, in a sense where you're equipped, you're given the skills to say, okay, if you want to graduate high school and you want to go live on yourself or live on your own and not continue your education, do whatever you want to do, at least you're equipped to be able to say, okay, now I know how to open up a checking account. I know how to balance a checking book. I know how to, I know how to save. I know what the importance of saving money. I know what inflation means. I know what it means to balance my accounting and taxes. I understand. I'm learning finance and things that come on. And so we already come out at a deficit. And then when you enter the higher education systems, if you're not well off and you don't have the support, you now have to assume loans. You now have to ingratiate yourself in more debt before you're even able to fly. Before you're able to spread your wings and fly and go live your life, you're now shackled with an insurmountable amount of debt. So it's like you're playing behind, you're playing at a deficit from the door, and it's not even your fault. As far as education, I would change the law and say, listen, and implement money, monetary system, and a real, not just about stocks and bonds, et cetera, et cetera. What does this thing, what is it? How does it work? What do we do with this? Learn the difference between being a worker and an owner. And it's okay to be a worker. It's okay to be an owner. But what's the difference? What are these degrees? A lot of us who have had degrees in school, we feel like we got scammed. Seriously. Like we feel like this right here, you spend all this amount of time studying, slaving. Some of us have to work and study and take care of our families to then come out and understand that, with your liberal arts degree, you could only afford yourself a $40,000 a year job, but you have yourself and your family to support. That's a scam, you know? Like to me,
No,
that's what that is.
uh, there is this old joke like uh, about university guy who did his degree in Egyptology, study of Egypt,
Right,
and the only job he can apply for is to be a professor of Egyptology. And
right.
what he does is goes and convinces other students to join Egyptology. So
Right.
literal pyramid scheme. So like yeah, there are so many flaws, and if you like we will discuss this maybe sometime later. But yeah, it is a
Sure.
two-tier system. Like I I had attended a seminar for not even like what do you call it? Uh, literal Amway kind of uh, not pyramids, multi-level marketing, but you get so there they what you all bombard you with inspirational quote, and they were like, yeah, there is this two-tier system.
Mm-hmm.
The people of the like the poor students are taught how to work so that you will earn. For us it was like 20,000 rupees, I would say to $2,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
while the rich are taught how to work so that you will be able to employ 20 people who work for $2,000 a month. So yes, this is something we have to address. And yeah, poverty itself is a big tax. And even realized this, like I switched places, like moved to a smaller location, like
Mm-hmm.
like so i- there is like if you're rich you are able to buy stuff in bulk and you already get kind of discount. But if you are poor you have to pay retail price, which
Mm-hmm.
itself increases how much you spend. But s- here I realize, like, sometimes like the poorer people don't even have the cheaper options available. Like
That's right.
here I was like when I lived in my previous location, there was a multi-storied building, 10th floor. It was a supermarket right below my building. I could buy stuff. Now I
Mm-hmm.
have to travel at least 20 minutes walking.
Mm-hmm.
If not take a, oh, what you call it? We call it a tricycle here. But
Right,
yeah,
right,
but
right.
it's so you pay extra for being poor. That is something. But yeah, so I would say at the end of the day, fix the money, fix the world is a
Yes,
kind of a true slogan.
yes,
And that is why we were kind of enthusiastic or about Hex.
yeah,
The,
yeah,
yeah, we
yeah.
have at the end of the day, somebody there was Markavelli, what pump and dump are we shilling today? No, he's a old Mexican. I know him, but here,
Yeah,
here we shill only one pump and dump, that is Hex.
right,
Even though it is, you can't really call it a pump and dump now,
right, right,
uh,
right.
but because very few times does it pump, but when it does, it blows off.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, so yeah, so that is why we have this guild. We share experiences, share knowledge. It
that's awesome.
was, yeah, it was wonderful talking to you. Let me
Likewise, Doc.
wonder. We are around the 1 hour mark. Uh, so
Wow, time flies.
I will,
Wow.
yeah, time flies. Um, I would have liked to fill in the 1 hour, like 5 minutes to make it 1 hour. These things do matter for the algorithm, but
That's fine.
maybe right now I can't. Usually I do it by cracking some dirty joke. I don't have my partner Finbear, uh, a partner Finbear here.
Yeah.
So I because this was kind of a heavy dose. Like we have to like put, put in that
Lighten up the load.
lighten
Yeah.
it up a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh, I
right.
uh, yeah, uh,
He sounds a heavy dose.
yeah,
Golden Mike.
yeah. You know, uh, b- something that I have planned for, but I haven't kind of made it through. But because of the Richard Hart case,
Yeah.
I wanted to do a rendition of the It Was a Me. Shaggy song.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Honey came in and she got me red-handed with
yeah.
watches. I have to still think of those.
You
I
should
will
do it,
if
Doc. You
possible.
should do it.
Yeah, yeah. Working on it, working on it. We
Awesome.
will do it. Hopefully, we will have another like on this channel. We will have a stream next week. I hope uh, Hex Futures joins and we will discuss some more things.
Okay.
Usually, we have an kind of an open mic. I share the link
Okay.
is shared in the Telegram group. So if anybody wants to join, they can always join.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, that's about it. We will, yeah, final thoughts.
Oh,
Any,
Doc, thank you for having me, and also for what you do and being committed, to the work in however that means to you, man. Like seriously, like and when I laugh at your jokes is because your jokes are funny, and we need your sense of humor and your perspective in in this community, in this ecosystem, because and your intelligence, seriously. I learned from you for real, and it's well appreciated. Right now I can't see the chat because of my phone. I'm on a Android,
yeah,
but I want to say what's up to everybody in the chat, even though I couldn't see you, and also thank Eco Builder for Hex Futures for this platform, and it's about quality. And I think this was a quality stream. I appreciate you, Doc.
yeah, and yeah, just because HOA had asked why not share it on X. I probably will an edited version of this.
Okay.
Take out my like two x what I'm saying. Sounds better. Yeah, yeah. So let's see. I will take some time. I talk too much. This will be it. See you guys next week. Bye bye.
Take care, y'all. Be well.